What's up, Adam here, looking today at a new comic. No, an old comic, Impact. This is a comic I mentioned briefly in the last episode when I looked at the art book, The Blighted Eye, because one of the artists there, Bernard Krigstein, has a pretty famous short story called Master Race, published in 1955 in EC Comics. EC Comics, you may know, is the publisher of like Tales from the Crypt, a lot of science fiction, war comics, crime comics. Kind of famous because in the 50s, there was a book published by this guy, Frederick Wortham, called Seduction of the Innocent, in which he talks about how comics are rotting the minds and the moral fiber of kids and stuff, because the comics were pretty violent and a lot of horrific things happened. So there were these congressional hearings, and what happened was they created the Comics Code Authority, which is horrible, and comics just got really beat apart. And EC Comics, they came up with all these new direction titles, some of them like Psychotherapy or something, and are just horrible. MD, they're just much tamer comics compared to the people getting an axe in the face from the old horror comics and so on. So anyways, this title, Impact, is one of the new direction titles, and it has probably the most famous story from the comic. I think there were only 5 issues of Impact, and it is Master Race, an 8-page story that on Wikipedia is referred to as the Wikipedia of comics, as the Citizen Kane of comics, because Krigstein was pretty wonderful artist, up there with like Alex Toth, and really you feel like he really poured a lot of effort into his pages, more than a lot of comics artists, because a lot of comics artists were just trying to get out as many pages as they could, as quickly as they could, to, you know, they were paid by the page, not by the quality, although obviously they want to be as good as possible. So anyways, I'm going to look at this comic. Also, I'm kind of looking at it because I want to see if there's any reference to the Holocaust, because I recently read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Revenge of the Tipping Point, in which Gladwell talks about how the Holocaust wasn't really referred to as the Holocaust among, you know, your average person on the street until the late 70s, when a TV miniseries called Holocaust came out, and then everybody called it the Holocaust. So anyways, I'm going to look for that word Holocaust. Actually, I just read this, 10 minutes ago, and I've read the story before. I used to have a big volume of Krigstein stories, really oversized volume. But it's been reprinted in color in, I think, Message in a Bottle is the title. It's been reprinted in other volumes, EC Archives, a volume just called Krigstein, and black and white has been reprinted. I think maybe that's the only one in print. I don't know. But in a volume called Master Race and Other Stories that Fantagraphics published. Anyways, without further ado, let's take a look at the comic. Cover, not by Krigstein, incidentally. The cover is by, you can see at the bottom, Jack Davis, who is a pretty famous Mad magazine artist, and pretty cool cover, I think. But there's this guy in the background who doesn't seem like he's particularly scary, and there's this guy running from him who seems very scared. I just want to say that I feel like this cover is good, but then you look at the original black and white, and it comes off the page so much more, because there's this thick line around the edge that really puts it forward, and also there's no color, so you just get a better, in this instance, I think the black and white actually does better service, just because the way it was colored was not, you have this like brown on brown, or these really muted colors on top of each other, so it doesn't really give it much chance to jump forward. So yeah, I think the cover is great. I love the Jack Davis, excuse me, cover. And then I just feel like the colors aren't as good as it could be. And yeah, Impact. I noticed there is no Comics Code Authority stamp. I don't remember when that actually started. But anyways, new direction. I wonder what kids would be expecting if they just see this. There's not much clues about what's inside. Certainly no references to the Holocaust or anything, or Nazi Germany or anything. It's just some guy kind of looking at lightning on the left, and then another guy kind of he's kind of floating and hunched along. So anyways, I don't know what kids would expect, but he lost his hat. Okay, here we go. Master Race Get a little swastika in here. Notice that Krigstein signs his name. Gets to put his signature in there. That's kind of cool. At least they were kind of respecting artists, allowing them to sign their names in the 50s. And I don't remember when this came out, in 1955, but somewhere in 1955. And yeah, great, kind of like a Art Deco look to the great use of shadows. I noticed that this main character, we don't see his eyes until the second page. Like all these early shots, he's just not until later we actually see his face and his eyes. But going back to here, yeah, great shots, really establishing shots wonderfully. Really great line work. I don't know if he inked it himself. I assume he did, but I don't know. And all I know is that he's credited as the artist, and Al Feldstein and William Gaines credited as the writers. And what was I going to say? I thought there was something I wanted to add. The narration. It's told in the second person, which is kind of interesting. I think that may be something, though, that EC Comics has done, though, in other horror titles, which kind of to really draw you in. They're like, you did this. You are walking down the street. And I like the there's really a good sense of, like, the narration is actually pretty good. I think the writing is pretty good. A lot of poetic imagery, really good at sensory stuff. Like I feel like I could almost hear the train coming along and like and braking and so on. And this panel is just amazing. This is like so unusual for comics, like to have this like almost Andy Warhol type image. I don't know when Andy Warhol started. I think after this, but I'm not sure when he became kind of known for his mass production imagery. And yeah, wonderful pacing, really slow pacing, actually. Again, I wonder what kid is going to read this. I enjoyed it, but I feel like kids may not enjoy it. One thing I didn't like was in the narration, just the way that they emphasize certain words in a kind of, it's not really done in the way that it's done in most prose, in which, you know, you put italics and bold, maybe if you want to emphasize a word, like the point was, but here it's just like they want you to make sure you notice the important information. A long time ago, this is America. And it's not like you would read it like that. It's just like they want to make sure you're paying attention to the important information. So I think if I was like editing this, I would like kind of tone it down on the bolds and the italics, and kind of just limit it to when it's putting on emphasis. But that was the style for most comics until at least the 80s or 90s. Yeah, so he's having this flashback. EC Comics are kind of known for having twist endings, especially with the horror titles. But the twist here is that this guy's remembering his time in the Holocaust, in the concentration camp. And again, I wonder, do kids know what a concentration camp is in 1955? The twist is, well, if you don't want to know the twist, maybe you should stop listening, but I'm going to tell you the twist. The twist is that this guy was not in the concentration camp as a prisoner, as a Jewish prisoner or whatever. He was in the concentration camp because he ran the thing. Dun, 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 dun. So this guy gets on the train. This guy looks like a Nazi, right? So they really want to like load this up to make you think, oh, this guy is the guy telling that's being narrated to is actually an escapee, a prisoner, but in fact he was the guy that ran it, and the guy that is gonna like kind of chase him down is just a prisoner. So this panel's really nice. He really has a good sense of draftsmanship, like Krigstein. He's really good with architecture. He's really good with anything design, and that's something you see in Art Deco a lot, is a lot of cool imagery with buildings and stuff. But this panel, very moody. I think this is why I prefer the color version, because there's a lot of great coloring that in black and white is just not as interesting to me. And if you like the black and white version, I respect that. But and it kind of allows you to see Krigstein's line work a little better. But I do like the coloring a lot. Okay, we get our flashback to Nazi Germany, in case the kids aren't aware of what's happening. We get a rally, and this is kind of like the first hint that this guy Karl is actually a Nazi and not a prisoner, not a Jewish prisoner. He's in some rally, chanting along with everybody else, and this panel is great. Look at everybody's eyes; they all look so kind of demented and kind of brainwashed. Like, look at this chick. Yeah. So Karl's kind of nauseous. So he's like, also look at this pamphlet. It says, Arbeit macht das Leben süß. I think that means work makes life sweet. So anyways, yeah, he's nauseous. So you're like, oh, you may still be thinking, is he a Jewish guy? Is he pretending to be not Jewish? What's his story? And then we get this. This is another great panel in which I feel like the coloring really works. This is Hitler. Like, I didn't even recognize him at first because his little mustache is barely hidden. And then one thing among the guards is they all look so inhuman, almost like these piggish bull-like people. And then we get, they're destroying culture. Look at what they're destroying. They're destroying like Heinrich Heine, Thomas Mann, and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I'm like, why are they burning the symphony? Like, I don't feel like the Nazis would burn the Ninth Symphony. They like Wagner, and I feel like Beethoven probably too. But they're just destroying culture. Very this panel, the energy here is kind of funny. It's like, is he gonna hit him, or is he just like raising his arm? Doesn't look very like actual in motion. But then the next panel, really great. Look at all this energy, and this guy's being like knocked over. This chick's like off the ground, and like here the guards look even more like pigs, or they look like those guys in that Twilight Zone episode with the masks where they look like kind of pigs. All right, so Nazi rally, and then here we get the concentration camp. So I think if the kids don't know what a concentration camp is, now they have a better idea and at least can kind of figure it out. They seem kind of it's like all men here in this shot, and they seem pretty have a very distinct look to them. They look kind of like that guy that got on the train, so maybe that's kind of lining up. Again, another all yellow panel, which I think looks pretty cool. And then we concentration camps, we get more. They don't actually, wait, do we talk about burn? Yeah, they do. Do you remember the stinking odor of human flesh burning in the ovens? Oh wait, let me shut this window. So even though this is after the congressional hearings, this is pretty graphic for kids. Human flesh burning in the ovens, men's, women's, children's, people you once knew and talked to and drank beer with. Harsh realm, Karl. So, and then he talks about this one. They don't get very graphic. I mean, they could have got more graphic, obviously, if they wanted to really. Nowadays they can do it, be as graphic as they want, but back then they just kind of like hinted at things using descriptions. This is a pretty good panel. Like it's got a very vapid look to the. I mean, look at this guy. He looks like they look almost like rats, or just like inhuman. Okay, then again, this kind of repeating motif of the faces kind of moving along. It implies the motion of the subway. We get the subway wheels. You can almost like hear it, or at least I could. Maybe there was description in the dialogue that made me. Yeah, all these exclamation points, though, I feel like they could have toned down. Look, Karl! Beating! I mean, it's okay, but I think it could have been a little cleaner if they had laid off the exclamation points. There's some great panels throwing people into a pit. They probably would have been naked rather than wearing clothes, but, it's a comic for kids, more or less. These guards look way too happy to be burying people. I feel like they're enjoying their job way too much. And you got one arm hanging out of the ground. That's a pretty cool image. Destruction. And then this guy, a prisoner, is swearing that he'll get the head of the concentration camp. Cool coloring. Again, two-tone coloring, just yellow and kind of a pink-purple here. And then this is the point when when he recognizes him, the prisoner sees the guy and he's like, oh my God, it's him. I found you at last. Now this, I think this could have been better with, he says, you choke. I think this could have been better. Instead of saying choke, he could have said something like H-E-H-H. And here an exclamation point would have helped, but instead we just get a ... So my preference anyways. This is a great 2 panels. Like first, very kind of unaware, and then boom, totally different character comes out. It's you. No, Gott in Himmel. And he runs 3 panels. This is something I've been reading through a lot of Jack Kirby comics in the 60s, and Kirby does this a lot. He'll have 3 panels of it's a really good number of to show an action in comics rather than just 2, because it allows you to kind of like have a before, a recognition, and then an after. So he runs along and he's kind of ambling. Crazy energy. Look at his eyeball, half off the page, just kind of, he's got this kind of almost like question mark around the eye. It's great. And then hardly any character, but just energy and pursuit. And the eyeballs are almost like something out of Frank Miller or something out of Kevin O'Neill in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And this panel, again, great architecture. Krigstein is just a master of architecture. The stairs are just like so thin in the background and yeah, looking wonderful. A lot of great energy. And then we get a flashback again of the concentration camp. This is such a horrific image. It's like, what is this hair on this person? So punk. Feet and faces, arms all stretched out and thin. And then this is where we learn, oh, by the way, you commanded that camp, Carl. You had blood dripping from your hands. Okay, and then this page, you know, the final page is just pure, like it's, let me see how many panels it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 panel page. Wow, just packed with. And then I'm not a huge fan of this part here where the paper flies off the ground, because he uses a line to indicate motion, which I think, and also the foot has 2 bars, which, I mean, it works, but it's like, it kind of distracts from the style that he'd been using, which was more of a realistic style in which you don't show like hand lines, you know, lines to indicate motion. You just have, instead, just show things as they are. But when you have these lines, it kind of moves you back towards like Popeye comics or something, you know, that's a little more, I mean, I think it's fine to do that in its own place, but when you kind of switch up your style all of a sudden and have these like energy lines, it just doesn't keep you consistent. But still, this is a wonderful page. I think, you know, it's one of those minor details that I would change if I was doing this, but I still appreciate the page. So a lot of things happening here. This jump here from this panel, this panel where he's like up and then he starts to fall, is this a lot of consternation, a lot going on. When you have that kind of jump, it kind of slows your energy down. You have to like pause and see what's going on in these panels, and then jump to the train, jump back to him, jump to the train, jump back to him under the wheel, and then boom, Andy Warhol images, heads moving along to imply motion. So maybe in the old EC they would have shown him actually getting run over, but here it's a little more subtle. And maybe Krigstein, though, that maybe that's not really his style, to like show somebody getting ripped over under the wheels of a train. Maybe that's more like Graham Ingalls or something. Anyways, the train passes. The people are unaware that anything has occurred, you think. I mean, I think you could probably get run over and nobody would notice, but apparently something happened and people realized it and they're like, what happened? I don't know. But it does allow him to finally talk and say more than just you. And so people get off the train. Look at this chick behind him. She's like, they're kind of concerned, And then, but they're also late for work. So anyways, he recounts what happened. Guy jumped off. He basically just said, disassociates himself from any guilt, any connection with the guy. He says, like, nope, just a perfect stranger who I kind of killed. And even if they had security cameras back then, which they didn't, nobody would know. Nobody would know. And he walks away. So cool ending. Not exactly a twist, final panel twist or anything. We got the twist. I mean, if a page before the ending, that he was the camp commander, if you hadn't figured that out. But final page is just, you know, if you could own one piece of comic art, this may be the one, because it's just so 15 panels. Most of the pages, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 panels. Most of them are a little more typical size. It's just that last page. They crammed a lot in. Yeah, so Master Race. No reference. I didn't really read every panel, so yeah, you may not realize this, but there's no reference to the Holocaust. The closest thing are, there's references to concentration camps. There's references to burning and run from this survivor of a human hell. That's probably the closest we get to an actual term like Holocaust, human hell on Earth. This survivor of a German concentration camp, Belsen concentration camp. Where is Belsen? I think it's in Poland. Yeah, so absolutely incredible art. I just want to make sure there are no other motion lines. Let's see if there are any other motion lines beyond that last page. I don't see. I mean, there's these, which I don't consider these motion lines. I think I consider this kind of like being able to see motion fluid, but not exactly motion lines. What I'm talking about is where there's like lines trailing a fist or something like that, or a foot. And I don't see any others. Like this, see, this is what I'm talking about. This panel, there's absolutely no motion lines. All the motion is implied by the fact that a person doesn't stand up like this. Like gravity doesn't allow them to stand up like this. So you know that they're falling, and this guy's at the end of his strike. He just hit him across the head. I don't see any other motion lines. No. Yeah, again, this part right here, this guy, gravity doesn't allow you to really stand like this. It's obvious that he's pushing him, and this woman's like being thrown. So I don't know why he decided all of a sudden in the very last page to all of a sudden include a motion line for a piece of paper. I mean, in some ways, I don't even know if we need this piece of paper here. Like it's the only thing it does is it like adds a little more, to the hat falling. It could have been removed. So I think this is a wonderful, incredible story that, it's so far ahead over the head of the audience that it was probably aimed at, but incredible story. It's just like I'm puzzled why they include like these motion lines on the foot and this motion line on the paper all of a sudden that is so at odds with the style that they had been using for the rest of the book. So it's a mystery that we'll probably never know, because Bernard Krigstein is no longer among us, I think. I'm pretty sure he's dead. But yeah, wonderful story. Check it out. Like I said, it's been reprinted in multiple volumes, and one of the most famous comic stories of the 1950s of EC Comics and of Bernard Krigstein's wonderful art and career. So yeah, there you go. Next, I don't know what I'll do in the next episode, but I kind of wanted to do this because I was thinking about it. And maybe I haven't done anything. Let me think. I haven't really done anything too modern, have I? I did a Superman story. I did a, I don't know what I did first. Anyways, maybe it's time to do something a little more modern, but I'm always about shaking it up and looking at different art, different comics, different eras, different countries and cultures. So give me a suggestion if you wanted me to check out any specific art or comics, and maybe I'll do it. See you then. Bye.